Welcome to Level 4 of the ALLANGRAY Entrepreneurship Challenge. This is the penultimate week in the challenge where we turn our focus to the theme of affordable housing. The United Nations Framework of Sustainable Development Goals state that governments should work towards ensuring access for all to adequate, safe, and affordable housing by year 2030. The complexities around this goal, however, are demonstrated by the fact that more than half of the world's population lives in cities, and this figure continues to grow as migration from rural areas increases. This places strain on urban resources, including affordable housing. But if these growing populations aren't able to afford safe housing, deterioration of living conditions are an inevitable outcome. According to Africa Check, our government has built 3.3 million houses since 1994 and has provided 1.5 million more housing opportunities. However, there is still a massive shortfall. Between 2.9 million and 3.6 million South Africans remain living in informal settlements. Social entrepreneurs working with affordable housing projects need to have a solid foundation with very important business principles, the first being pricing strategies and the second being empathy in business. We recommend spending 20 to 25 minutes of classroom time early this week to give them an introduction to these foundation principles. Consider starting the first activity by selecting 2 volunteers from the classroom. Find a female learner that is passionate about cosmetics and skincare in the class, and another male learner who loves fixing cars and has quite a bit of knowledge about the mechanics of cars. The female learner needs to imagine that she is an entrepreneur, while the male learner needs to imagine that he owns a small business of his own. He lives in a community where many people are experiencing problems with their second-hand cars, and so has started his own business after school hours, conducting minor services on these second-hand cars, and is using a small garage in the neighborhood to conduct his work. Given that they are both startup entrepreneurs, they can follow one of 2 possible pricing strategies to make money from their products and services, either a low-price, high-volume model or a high-price, low-volume model. Say, for example, the female entrepreneur is able to produce a jar of makeup for 100 rands at her own cost, and then decides to sell it for 150 rands. She may not be making large profits on each jar of makeup sold, but due to the low price, she'll probably be able to attract a large volume of customers to buy from her. This type of entrepreneur makes her profit from selling a low-priced product to a large volume of customers. If, however, she decides to sell her product for 300 rands a jar instead, she would likely be employing a high-price, low-volume strategy, so that even if the price of the product is so high that only a handful of customers purchase it, she would still be able to comfortably make a profit. The male entrepreneur will also need to make the same choice, either setting a low price to conduct a minor service on each car, where this might help to bring in more customers, and in his case, this would be the low price, high volume strategy. On the other hand, if he decides to set a higher price, he might be able to cover the costs of his own time, materials, and rental costs just by servicing a small handful of cars as opposed to a large volume. Now ask both learners to speak about which of the 2 pricing strategies they would select if they were a startup entrepreneur and not an established entrepreneur. Remind them that starting out with a low initial price might help to bring in larger volumes of customers initially, encouraging more people to try out the product, service, or platform and proving to them its quality so that they can go on to become regular paying customers over time. And in this way, you establish what we refer to as customer loyalty or brand loyalty. 6 months after this loyalty has been built up, the entrepreneurs can go on to increase the price in a gradual way so that customers don't receive a price shock. This type of hybrid strategy combines elements of the low price, high volume strategy at product launch with elements of the high price, low volume strategy upon becoming an established brand, and can help the entrepreneur later achieve higher prices and higher volumes for their enterprise. The impact that price may have on different segments of the same market is where the idea of empathy or customer experience comes in. Entrepreneurs need to be aware that if a product, service, or platform has an exceptionally low price, customers in certain segments of the target market may associate it with being a poor quality or unreliable product, even if it is in fact extremely efficient. To introduce the notion of empathy further, consider starting activity 2 off by asking the class to imagine that it is now 6 p.m. in the evening, and their parents have just walked in the front door. Ask the class how they themselves would be feeling at 6 p.m. Are they excited to see their parents? Would they be feeling very conversational and happy to talk about their day at school or something interesting they watched in the afternoon? Remind the class that if so, it's probably because they've already would have been at home for several hours by then, and they would have had time to unwind and relax and maybe watch some TV. At the exact same time by 6 p.m., however, their parents might not feel exactly the same way, since they're probably tired and stressed out from a long day at work, before jumping straight into a long, energetic conversation with their parents out of their own excitement. Empathy refers to the ability to think about the parent's experience in the moment at 6 p.m. and based on that, maybe offer their parents a glass of water to drink or help them get dinner started to improve the parent's experience at 6 p.m. that evening. Empathy is a special skill since it helps us understand other people in different positions from our own, with different thoughts and experiences to our own. It is a powerful catalyst in personal relationships as well as in business relationships, since it helps the entrepreneur to factor in customer feelings and customer perceptions when designing a product or service based on customer needs. Empathy is the main ingredient in building a customer-centric enterprise, one that puts the customer's thoughts, feelings, and needs at the center of its operations. Going back to the activity, remind the class that empathy is often linked to an entrepreneur's target market. In activity 1, if the target market of the female entrepreneur is comprised of young high school female learners with small budgets and not much extra money, then a low price strategy may be more successful in bringing in a larger volume of customers from this particular customer segment. However, in another customer segment comprised of middle-aged, wealthier female professionals looking to purchase from luxury brands, a low price strategy may reduce the volume of paying customers, since in that segment of the market, these individuals would associate the lower price of the product with a cheap quality product. And this is where empathy and customer centricity plays a role in carefully designing a product and pricing strategy to be better received by the target market of the entrepreneur. That's it for this week. We hope you've enjoyed the video lesson, and for any support, please send a shout out to info@entrepreneurshipchallenge.co.za.